let's get this thing going. All right. Thank you guys all for showing up. What we wanted to do is kind of help educate everybody on fins and fin technology and new templates and everything like that. So we brought in the big dogs here at Futures Fins. This is Cole. He works at Futures. Taylor.
Yep.
John. And the man himself, Vince right here, who started Futures. All those cool fins that you guys get to ride.
So to start with Futures, we just celebrated our 25-year anniversary last year. So we're an American-made company out of Huntington Beach, California. We'll start with the fin system itself, the fin box. One thing that's super unique about Futures is the full base of the fin goes into the board. So every bit of power that you get in the fin drive gets transferred in the board. It's the closest thing to a glass on. So it's a very connected feeling to the board. We have so many fins in our line. There's what, 250 some odd SKUs.
Over 200 SKUs.
And it's a bit overwhelming when you go to walk in here and they have so many fins and so many different boards and you're trying to tee up the right fin with the right board. One thing we've tried to do is really simplify the fin buying process. So you can see here, there's 3 categories. And what this is in regards to your turning arc, there's a rake template, there's a neutral template, and a pivot template. And all of the fins, the 200 fins plus that are in the line, fall into those 3 buckets. Whether it's a team fin, a shaper fin, or these are our legacy templates. These are our Futures house templates. We'll start with rake. So rake is in regards to how much of the fin is past the back of the shaper dot. So when you see a shaped blank, there's usually a pencil mark, and that back pencil mark is the very trailing edge of the fin. Fins that have more rake are more for an open-faced wave, point break, down the line surfing. Your turning arc is more drawn out. Also complements boards that have a higher tail rocker. So more performance shortboards, Driver 3.0, CI Pro, stuff like that. Rake templates work the best. On the other end of the spectrum would be the pivot. This fin right here, it's more upright. It's not as drawn out past the shaper dot. This is good for beach breaks, more a peak style wave where your turning radius is more vertical. Straight off the bottom, straight into the lip, you might only have 1 or 2 opportunities to set up a turn, and neutral falls in the middle. It's the balance of the 2. These fins are in a honeycomb construction. One thing that's super unique about them between the 3, surface area is all the same. The P8 large, the pivot, and the R8 rake large, the overall surface area of the fin is exactly the same. So it's really easy to go from one to the other and feel the difference of template style, what your characteristics would be. So on the pivots, it's tight turns, quick response time. Rake, you're drawn out, there's a bit more drive. And what that means, so in regards to drive on a rake template, it's gonna draw you out a bit more, it's gonna hold a little bit longer through the turn, where on the other end of the spectrum, the pivot, it's gonna break free sooner. The tail is gonna be a little bit looser. With a board characteristics in regards to board rocker, the pivot tends to work better in something that's a little flatter. It helps break the board free a little bit sooner.
Like the neutral, perfect for everywhere.
It's a great starting point. New board, baseline for sure. F6 or F8 or F4 if it's a small. It's a great place to start to feel out the board and then kind of go from there. If the board feels like it's too stiff, not turning as sharp as you'd like, you'd go towards the pivot side of the templates. If it feels like it's too loose trucks, you have speed wobbles, you go to a raked fin.
With the raked out fin, it's going to be like the equivalent of like skateboard type trucks. You get on that and kind of lean into it. It's like, oh, like the radius is like more drawn out, right? For like how you're going to turn. But if you move to the opposite end of the spectrum with the pivot, like loose trucks, right? You lean and it's like it goes quicker.
If you step into the Shaper series or the Athlete series of our fins, Shaper-wise for the pivot stuff is Timmy Patterson and Hayden live in that realm. They have lower tail rockered boards, where in the rake side of things, increased tail rocker, there's more tail flip, your Geordie, the Connor Coffin, DHDs, that kind of falls into that bucket as well. So if you're new to Futures and picking the correct fin for a board, Legacy Series is a great start. These 3 fins right here will go in anything in regards to finding the right fin for the right board. Into the next level, there's something that we have that's called ride number. And what that is, it's a 1 to 10 scale, and this is where construction comes into play. We have 5 different constructions, and in those constructions, so it's either speed generating versus speed controlling. So the best way to think of it is when you need to pump and generate speed and when you need to control speed. Hit the brakes. That's where the stiffer fins come into play in the fiberglass line. So a template standpoint, it's your radius, your turning radius, and from the feeling, performance feel, it's a construction conversation there. Blackstix is our speed generating construction. What sets that apart from a normal honeycomb fin like this? There's a carbon layup in the fin. There isn't a honeycomb core to it, but the one thing that really is the keynote part of the Blackstix is there's a foil to the inside of the fin. And what that is, it's what we call our V2 foil. There's a convex at the base of the fin and it goes flat at the tip. So what that does is it adds a really smooth rail to rail transition. It helps you generate speed. So if you get a board and it's not the best board, doesn't have a gas pedal, you're looking to really turn it on, the Blackstix are the way to go to really add more of a fluid feeling to the board. Great for more flat-faced waves, looking to generate speed, help the board with a better rail-to-rail transition. On the other end of that, speed controlling, where the waves are powerful, something like pipe or like a really heavy beach break, Techflex and Control Series. So what Techflex is, a honeycomb core to it. There's carbon at the base and carbon at the tip. So the way the fin folds, it doesn't flex out like the Blackstix where it opens up like a fishtail, like a shark swims, where a Techflex folds in half. So when you really step into a bottom turn, you get a really abrupt transfer of power to the board. So the reaction time's a bit quicker in powerful surf. And then on the other side of that, like the big wave line that we have and more our whole Control Series line, that's a traditional fiberglass fin. What that does, it's a really predictable, consistent feeling. But in a normal fiberglass fin setting, you're gonna be wanting to ride that in powerful surf, to where if you were to take that to Sano and you're on a 6.0 shortboard with an EA fiberglass fin, the board's gonna feel stale, it's not gonna have a lot of drive, it's gonna feel like there's not a lot going on there, where that's where the Blackstix would really come into play. Honeycomb is a very balanced feel, kinda sits in the middle of either side of the ride number scale. That's honeycomb, that's alpha, and that's also vapor core. Vapor core is a carbon hollow construction that we make in Huntington Beach. It kind of sits right in the middle of the ride number scale. Super lightweight, really resilient as far as the rebound of the fin and how it feels. But yeah, for an everyday starting point, honeycomb, vapor core, and like alpha's kind of right in that realm. Majority of the line is flat. Speed generating has that V2 foil like we talked about with the Blackstix. There's only another anomaly in the line. DHD has a bit of a bevel, a roll to the front, but nothing super drastic.
Some of the big wave fins have their own big wave foil that's different.
To make it more efficient at higher speeds.
Yeah, and that is one thing too. We just released recently the Legacy line in Blackstix. All 3 fins that Taylor's described up here, we have them in Blackstix as well. So if you do have your favorite Legacy template, you can also get that in the V2 foil.
Yeah, you jump from a balanced feel to a speed generating feel.
But still keep the same exact.
But the same fin, template-wise, and surface area.
Yeah, don't give up on that board if you think it's not working.
Yeah.
Just change the tires.
Yeah, exactly.
The Blackstix, the inside foil on the fins really makes a huge difference. Like, it's crazy. Once you get used to like the spring that it gives you, like once you learn how to like kind of harness it, it really propels you into anything you want to do.
What was your experience going from flat foil to vector foil?
Yeah, once I got used to the foils, like that's kind of all I ride around here. Like every fin I have has some variation of the foil, but it really is awesome. It makes a huge difference. Yeah, it definitely is like it's a big change for sure. When you first get on them, it'll feel weird or like your timing will be a little off, but once you kind of like get like a sense of that foil, it really makes a big difference.
The main thing that I found after making fins for 27 years or so is every board's a little bit different, and to dial in the fin on that board. And that's where the Legacy series come in, so you can dial in. So if that board, neutral feels best on that board, let's say the F4, however big you are, F6, then you can move into the different constructions and really fine tune that board. And then the next board you get may have a lot more tail rocker, and that F6 doesn't feel so good. So I like to move just template first, and then once I figure out, okay, that template works really good, now I'm gonna try the Blackstix, or I'm gonna try the Techflex on it, or I'm gonna try the vector foil. And I'll move down, so I'll just say that board is a neutral fin board, and I'm gonna have 2 different or 3 different templates, or 3 different instructions in a neutral template for that board. And I'll leave it that. And that's kind of how I like to work the range, and kind of why the range is set up that way. But just from a science perspective, you know, we've been designing these fins for years, the vectors, you know, 15, 20 years ago. It wasn't until about 4 years ago that we actually started doing computer modeling simulations. And so CFD, if you're familiar with it, a lot of the fluid dynamics of science uses modeling before they go and build a prototype. Obviously, surfing, we didn't do that. Well, we went back and threw a bunch of the designs in there, and what we found out is that the template changes, and what we get is a lift-drag profile, lift versus drag, basically efficiency. We saw the templates change as much as about 15% when we go from, let's say, a pivot to a rake. But once we threw the foils in there, we saw huge changes, as much as 30% difference in the lift-drag profile. And that's why when we first started coming out with the vectors, and John was a little kid, and a lot of the pros wouldn't get on it, because it changed the feel so much. Their body memory was so used to coming to the top of a wave at a certain time, they just couldn't dial it in. That's obviously changed now with John, and some of the pros we have now are starting to ride the foils now. But it was really interesting to me to see that big of a change, and it made sense, because and I think that's where the average surfer will benefit the most, because there is that huge change in that lift drag profile. You tell me fins don't matter, I say, well, what are you riding? I can give you a fin right away, your first wave will go. They matter. That's one of the things that you gotta look at. That's why I say start with template and then move down to foil, because that'll make a big change. The exact same area that you're gonna get the lift from, you change that foil and it makes a huge difference. Well, now I got the CFD, so now I can fine tune them a little bit, and so he actually just cut 2 prototypes, and that we're researching right now. And one of those is going to come out, and I want to put it out in alpha, because that's the most economical fin, and that way you don't have to spend a lot of money to try something new, but then you can start to experience the difference. And I think one thing we didn't touch on is why the difference in price range. Really, the difference in price range, and why VaporCore is so much more expensive compared to like an alpha, and it has to do with the resonance, how fast the fin comes back. So once you put it under load, the speed at which it comes back is super important. The more advanced surfer, you want that thing coming back, because it's all about unweighting and weighting. The faster you unweight, the quicker you can weight it again, and that's where your pump comes from. So really what you're looking at, and when you look at our line, you look at the different prices, it really comes down to that resonance. So you're gonna pay for quicker response, you're gonna pay more money for that. Fins floating.
I think it just happened by default.
It happens by default because that VaporCore, which is made here in the U.S., it's got a hollow center. You know, got a lighter.
Could you hand me? For more progressive surfing, tail weight, tail high maneuvers, reverses, stuff like that, where you throw it under your arm, the board feels very balanced.
I got my hand on a pair of those beta prototypes.
Yep.
Were pre-COVID.
Yep.
I loved how lightweight they were. Right?
Yep.
But I was just curious, like, what was that prototype? Just limited run?
So that turned into these. We wanted them. We put them out as protos, as the beta, to where if they had faults or if they had anything that was wrong with them, we found out at that point, because we were bringing a brand new technology into the market that had never been done before. So that was kind of our test pilot of, does this tech work? If it doesn't work, what can we do to fix it? And then we perfected it and made it into what it is now.
There was a program in place within the shops where we were kind of like, it was very limited to where we were trying to keep.
There's a feedback card in there.
Yeah. Where like we would connect with you and be like, hey, like what do you guys think? You know, so it's like we're kind of working together. You know?
Everybody who wrote a set of those helped us in developing this technology. So
thank you very much.
What were like the takeaways from the feedback?
What Vince touched on is like the rebound of the fin, of how it reacts once there's load under it. It's just something that's completely different than everything in the line.
It's like an instantaneous like transfer of like power. When you push it, like you feel it. Like,
for sure.
Immediately, you know?
From a technical point of view, we had to add fiberglass to the base because they were a little brittle.
I heard that.
Yeah,
I talked to some guys.
she made him stronger.
I mean, how else are we going to find out whether that new tech was going to work unless we built 1,000 of them?
Yeah.
And then we needed people to ride on and replace them if they broke. But we did learn a lot from that program. So it is something that I think we will bring back in the future.
Yeah, John's new fin line coming out, it's strictly vapor core. All small wave every day, big wave, all around this technology.
Same templates that he has now. Just
They're different. Yeah, different foils, different
He's got a
templates.
small wave template that we worked out for the Olympics. That's totally different. It's kind of based off the scimitar tip. And then he's got his comp fin, which is a medium large. That is a vector foil all the way through. And then he's got his fin that he's competing right now at, or he competed at Margaret's and he'll compete at Bell's when he rides like a 6.2 on really big waves. And that's a medium fin Techflex, but a really specific Techflex. It took us about 3 years to develop that one.
I think
Yeah,
that's a super cool thing about the company is that there's no lag time. You know, like we don't have to go to a factory like overseas. Like we can create in Huntington Beach and then take it out the same day, you know, out in the harbor in Long Beach behind the jet ski and like put it through its paces to
different rates of speed, see where it turns harmonic and hums. And then John's are the hardest because he's surfs so fast, like he's Mach 10. Like,
So a little story on it. I was in Hawaii, and I think it was Corey Lopez gave me a set of fins back, and he said, "Oh, these hummed at pipe." So I grabbed the fins, and I was like, "Okay," and I was like, "I wonder how fast he was going." So I think that next week we went behind on the ski with the GPS watch, and we towed those fins till we hummed, and they didn't hum till about 32 miles an hour. So that's about how fast they're hitting speeds at pipe. And obviously, it was a big day.
Did we touch base on why Alpha so economically friendly?
yeah, so our Alpha line, we teamed up with a company called Rayo. They pull long line fishing nets out of the ocean. It's the nylon in it. It gets reground into pellets, and we melt it with carbon. And so it's a recycled fin that pulls pollution out of the ocean. The carbon in it still adds enough resiliency so where it's a performance fin, because we do make what's called Thermotech, which is a composite fin, which most boards are given away with. It's kind of a placeholder in a way, where Alpha is kind of a step above that. It's a good price point, and you're also saving the ocean at the same time, which is pretty cool. We have a big Alpha campaign coming out this summer with Dave Rostovich, John, and Jerry Lopez to kind of go in the inner workings of how we produce it, where the stuff comes from.
What's capable when you're riding.
Yeah, for sure. It's a great, I mean, it's for an everyday fin, it does good. And it's only $65. Correct. It goes along with Legacy. Yep.
Anything we have in our line, and sometimes stuff that we've had in our line in 5-6 years ago, we'll still have in stock. On our website, we have a contact form to reach out to us and just say, you know, hey, I'm looking for a replacement fin.
And you don't have to lose one to get it. So if you're like riding a large and you wanted just to get a medium center fin for it, that works too.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Or-
Thanks for coming out. We appreciate it. Yeah. Cool.
Hey, thank you guys so much. Definitely gonna, look at our fin demo. You want to try out all these fins that these guys are creating and helping us become better surfers. But thank you guys so much. We got some more food, some more drinks. Feel free to talk it up. And thanks for coming.
yeah, thank you.
All right, anytime.
I just broke my
We're tied to a body and it's time to go. No reason to take it slow. Gotta get up, hit the road, and say what's up to Poncho. Go to the liquor store while my work is ripped away, but I cannot stay. Not today, gotta hit the shore and catch the waves. When you break your favorite board, or your fin hits the ocean floor, we just wanna surf some more.